Thanks again, everyone, for your time to join us in this demo webinar of Azure TotalView Standardization Suite for HPALM. And a couple of words of housekeeping in the beginning. So this webinar will be just around 40 minutes with a Q&A in the end. And feel free to ask questions anytime in the questions pane of the GoToWebinar menu. And if you would like, please fill in the survey form that opens in the end of the webinar. We'd really appreciate your feedback. And you'll receive a recording of the webinar and the materials that are shown within just a few days. So thanks again for joining. My name is Tuomas Leppilampi. I'm a DevOps specialist or a software development lifecycle specialist and a product manager at Azure. I have quite a long and global experience of HPALM standardization projects in various companies around the world. And my background is in HPALM system administration and development, and I've been a partner at Azure for 10 years and counting. So thanks again for joining, and nice to meet you all. We also have a moderator here, Shir Goldberg, and he will be answering some of your questions already when the webinar is ongoing, and taking care of the back end in any ways that we need. So let's go forwards. A couple of words about Azure. Our mission at Azure is to enable our clients to have actionable insights across the IT landscape. We have a flagship product concentrating in advanced analytics, the Azure TotalView Insights for testing and for development. And we aim for consistent data, and we achieve that by using our Azure Standardization Suite that we are going to be talking about today. So essentially, we provide tools that drive an optimized BI solution for DevOps landscapes. So let's go forwards to HPALM standardization, our topic of the day. There's a few cornerstones in HPALM standardization. And I'd like to think that the business rules and processes in your organization give a good starting point for planning a standardization project. You need to understand what the business needs. And also, of course, you need to understand the metrics and reporting initiatives in your company and how to align your ALM project usage with these initiatives. And of course, this is something that standardization will give you a possibility for. Also, HPALM gives a lot of functions and capabilities for enterprise activities, such as a standardized environment, especially the ALM templates functionality. So if you're not using your ALM templates functionality at the moment, we strongly recommend that you get on board to enable a lot of good new features and functionalities and cross-project reporting, these kind of things in the HPALM software suite. So the before situation of the standardization initiative, we like to call the Wild West sometimes. So what we have there is difficulties in cross-project reporting because each project can have their own configurations and usage models. And this can lead to bad visibility in overall release readiness and product quality. And unified terminology is another thing that is a very common thing in the Wild West scenario. So comparing any project's efficiency requires a lot of manual work and discussions and meetings and so on. Also, another thing is induction of testing specialists in a testing center of excellence. Of course, it takes more time because they have to learn the tricks of each project as they move on. Maintenance in the back end of ALM environment is cumbersome because if you want to introduce a new list value or a data field, for an example, for your projects, you have to separately go to each one of these projects in your ALM environment and introduce them there. Whereas the enterprise template gives you a possibility to push any changes to your ALM projects with just a single click of a button. So there can be a lot of overlapping customization and development effort too, because as we know, ALM gives a very wide array of customization possibilities, such as workflow scripting and these kind of things. So Whenever we go to an enterprise template, we can have organization-wide reporting, unified terminology, a smoothly functioning testing center of excellence, and easier administration and maintenance, and whatever customized functionalities or best practices you have in your company, they can be leveraged in any ILM project with the use of these enterprise templates. So what is the Azure HPALM standardization suite? So we have quite a few tools and functionalities that go under this umbrella. What we really want to do is we want to enable the ALM templates functionality with your existing ALM projects. We have a project analysis process, or current project analysis process, to help you investigate the current situation, to see what kind of varieties of configurations, what kind of varieties of usage models you have in your current ALM projects, and how could you then bring them all together in a template that caters for all these different kinds of projects. So Azure Project Harmonizer is one tool of this HPALM standardization suite, and it helps you to map existing projects with the HPALM template. And we also can use the Azure Data Standardizer to scrub data within projects lists to verify the data integrity as compared to the template. A couple of good things to know that all users in ALM can have personalized settings. You have your favorites, your reports, your graphs, and these will stay intact while converting the project. So our tools will go into these favorite report and graph settings and change the field configurations there as we do the conversion of the projects to align with the template. And this is definitely a proven technology. We have used this to convert thousands of QC and ALM projects. And it's not necessarily us who is doing the converting. We are actually wanting to empower the companies using these tools to do these activities themselves. So that's the umbrella of our HPALM standardization suite, and we'll go forwards into the details in just a bit. So our Azure ALM Project Harmonizer, if there are people who are familiar also already with this tool, we have a new release coming up right now of the Azure Project Harmonizer. And it is really a set of tools used for enable the linking of existing ALM projects to an ALM template. So what these tools do is they convert your ALM projects to align with the template, and then you can run something in ALM called cross-project customization to link the project into the template for future administrative configuration pushes and everything like this. So what we do with the mapping tool is we link all the data fields from the projects into the ALM enterprise template used in your company. So what we really do is we make the critical activity of preserving ALM data and configuration in your existing level. We did these activities before we created these tools for many customers, large customers, and big years. Some of the projects actually took like 2 to 3 years to actually analyze all the projects that you, and then create this template and then do the conversion with a lot of SQL queries and these kind of things. Very error prone, a lot of manual, and this led us to create these tools to enable this linking with much ease.
Thomas, this is Shira. We lost your audio, so it's a bit broken. See if you can do anything about it. Right, everyone, I'm trying to get a hold of Thomas. Something is probably wrong with his connection, so bear with us for a few moments.
Trying to reconnect. Okay, I have reconnected my audio. So sorry about that glitch. I think I had a little network issue right there. So
Yeah,
let's continue.
you're back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so automap effort analysis. So what do? We use it in preparation stage of HPL and templates deployment. So this gives us a possibility to estimate the actual effort of standardization activities within your company. So this can also be used in a kind of a proof of concept stage where we actually want to understand how much effort does it take from our company to start standardizing these projects. And whenever we get approval for this project in general, for this initiative in general in our company, this feature is something that's very useful. So for any HPL and enterprise template designer, this gives a complete overview of which data fields and configurations are actually used in current ALM projects, the field usage activity per projects. So are the fields still relevant to carry to the template? How much manual mapping effort is needed to prepare current ALM projects to link to the enterprise template? So what we help is to make sure that the ALM enterprise template is not missing any fields or lists that the currently running projects will need when they start using it. And this cuts down weeks of analysis works when we're planning and creating the new enterprise template. In the beginning, we noticed that one ALM project takes about on average half an hour to analyze manually with SQL and Excel macros and so on. So with these mapping tool features, we can reduce this time down to just 1 or 2 minutes. Another feature that we are introducing is a pre-configured automap file. So this speeds up and automates the activity of mapping current ALM projects fields to the template. And I'm going to demo this soon, so it's quite deep information to start with, but you will see in just a few minutes how it's actually used. Because in most of the HPALM ALM projects, they tend to have similar configurations at some level, because they've originally been created from one or more parent projects. So whenever we map existing projects to the enterprise template, the automap feature automatically connects fields of the same label, and with this pre-configured mapping file, we can extend this activity. So for an example, you have your system used to system or app to application or SW to software, and we can give all of these pairs as a pre-configured automap file. Whenever we're working with tens, hundreds, or even thousands of ALM projects to standardize, this file really saves a significant amount of time. So soon we'll see how that works. Okay, so a couple of words about the Azure tools in practice. And at this point, I'm also going to hop into the demo to actually show you how these tools work. So whenever we prepare the HPALM template, we run the Azure ALM automap effort analysis to understand the level or the lack of standards in ALM projects. So we see what kind of configurations in our Wild West exist. With these analysis results, we use to design and implement the new enterprise ALM template. And for this, we also use the Azure Harmonizer setup tool. Whenever we go to map existing projects to template, we run the Azure Harmonizer automap to automatically map existing ALM projects to template. And it provides us a proven, verifiable way of handling the mapping of up to thousands of projects. And then we go to the actual linking the projects to the new HPALM template, and then scrubbing the data to verify and enhance the data integrity in the projects. So I'm going to go to the demo now, and you will see how this all works. Okay, so first I go to our Azure Project Harmonizer mapping tool. So the mapping tool gives us a possibility to choose automap effort and the automap settings. So in automap, we compare the project fields to the template fields, and we can choose the different properties that will be compared. By default, we are of course comparing the label. So the name of the fields should be exactly the same for the automap to map them. But then we can also choose data type or the length or verified, required, or history properties. Now I'm happy with just the label, so I'm just going to cancel this, and I'm going to go to my automap effort to run automap effort. Now I'll choose my local ALM URL, and the username and password will be given here. And now it will go through and analyze some of my projects, and then I can see my templates on the left, my projects on the right, and I will select a template from here, and then I will compare my template with a bunch of projects that I have in my environment. So all of these projects have not been standardized, they have not been linked to the template. They are your existing projects in your ALM environment that are in the scope of standardization. And we want to understand what kind of differences these different projects have compared to the template, the draft template that we have created. So the draft template is just basically created out of just the basic information that we think that we want to have in the future environment. Okay, so now I have selected the template. I've selected a bunch of projects, so I can do some more actions where I can count the selected projects, because sometimes you might have hundreds of projects here, and you might want to know how many projects are you actually going to run this on. There's a couple of other functionalities here, but I'm just going to keep it simple. And in here, I'll go analyze, and it starts processing. It starts analyzing these projects one by one. So it really goes through the project and analyzes it very deeply in the database and compares it to our global QA template. And when they're done, they go green here. But I've actually already created this kind of file, an AutoMap effort analysis file, and I will show it to you right now. So this is the result that we get from the AutoMap effort analysis. So in here we can see our domains and our projects and our user-defined fields. So how many user-defined fields we have in any particular project. And also what we can see is how many fields can we already AutoMap without doing anything. So we're in a pretty good situation, but as we see from the percentages, there's still a lot of work to do with this mapping. There's also something called system mismatch, because as we might know, ALM and Quality Center gives us a possibility to change the labels, then change the names of the visible names of the system fields as well. Now, for an example, in our credit department project, we can see that there's 3 system mismatch fields. Now we want to drill in a little bit deeper to understand what kind of varieties do we have here in these different projects. Okay, I'm just my domains, projects, and entity. So release, requirement, defect, test instance, so on and so forth. You can also see the database names of those fields and the field labels that are shown to the end user. So we can identify these fields, what they really mean to the end user. Then we have a bunch of configuration information fields, like is the field system, are they required, verified, do they collect history, and so on and so forth. But really the interesting part here is the usage. So for some of these projects, for example, we have 237 requirements, of which only 7 have an attachment. So so we can see that that's not that much used, but it's important. And author here, for example, 170 of requirements have something in the author field. So it's pretty highly used. In this column here, we can see the usage percentages. So we can see which fields are very actively used in each one of these projects. Now, when we think about mapping, the one thing that we are not that interested in are system fields that are already mapping to the template. So these are system fields that are gotten natively out of ALM. We don't have to do anything to them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to deselect it from here. Now, another set of information that I'm not that interested in is the AutoMap. So all the fields that will be AutoMapped without any activity. Okay. Close this. Okay, so I'll deselect AutoMap as well. Now the remaining fields are the ones that we have to do something about. We have to review and we have to understand what kind of impacts do they have when we go to mapping and linking them to the template. Okay, so the no match fields are something that the tool didn't find a one-to-one match between the project and the template. And then we have this system mismatch. So you can see, for an example, something that's normally called a project field in our defect has been changed to program in this credit department project. And whenever we have target release and target cycle, they have been changed to cycle to fix and release to fix. Now, whenever we push the template configuration to the projects, these will change because they will always be reflected to the template. The template overrides the project system fields. So what we really need to do here is that we need to go to these projects and say, please note that these will be changed when you go to the template. Okay. Some of these fields are not very interesting. I'm just going to deselect the system mismatch too as we went through it. So this is really our to-do list. We have to understand what we do with these. So I'm going to look at any field that has only zero usage. So I can see that for a couple of projects, there's a field in defect called substatus that is not used at all. So fair enough, I think we can delete these fields in these projects. They are not needed in this project at the moment. So I would contact these projects and responsible people and say, look, you have a field in your project that is not in our template. So please please note that we would like to delete it if you are not going to use it in the future. Okay, so that's one thing that we might want to do. And then I can also, what I can do is I can start going through these fields to see that we are catering for any active, so let's take 0 away from here. So any active fields need to be found in the template so we can map them. And I've already done some work here, and I can show you another Excel that is a automap mapping file. So this is the mapping file that we noticed. So noticed before. So we are missing something. We are missing can be automated because that's not in the template yet. So if we go to the actual template and we go to test user fields, we do not see this field. So we know that, okay, we're missing this in the template. So missing this in some of the projects that we have are using this kind of field, can be automated. And I'm going to add it here. This is a result of our analysis. So it can be automated, and I'm going to do a lookup list, and that would be a yes/no list. And so another thing that we're missing here is in our defects, I've gone through this, and I understand that we do not have something called development team. So development team is actively used in some of these projects, like this one over here, but we do not see it in the template. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that here in the template as well. So in this way, our analysis tool will help the template designer to make sure that we are not missing any fields. Okay, so I saved our template, and we're ready to go forwards. So now we did our effort analysis, so we know that, okay, all of these fields need to be mapped to the template one way or the other. So now I'll go back to our project harmonizer, and the analysis is over, so I can close this view, and I'm going to create a new mapping. So I'm going to create a new mapping that maps an existing project with the template. So I'm going to choose the template, and I'm going to choose one of these projects. Now, whenever I do this, it compares the template configuration with the project configuration and allows me to do mapping within this user interface. So for each entity in our project, we have we have their own tab. So release folder, cycle, so on. So in requirements, we can see that some of these vulnerabilities to vulnerabilities, our automap will map those. So vulnerabilities to vulnerabilities, whenever we do automap, it will automatically map these two fields because their labels match. Now we have a reviewer and an approver. So we know that we want to map these, but of course the automap will not map these because they do not match. So this is why I have this mapping sheet. So in requirement, in our requirement entity, I just say reviewer will be mapped to approver. And I have a lot of other rules here. And whenever we go forwards with the analysis of an actual standardization initiative, this list will then grow longer as we analyze new projects and we realize that we're still missing something, and we need to do more mappings. So I've already prepared this file to save you time. So just to show you, I have here progress is 0% at the moment. So this tracks my progress of how many fields in our projects have we already mapped to our template. If I just run automap on all tabs, it will only map 8 out of 14 because, for an example, browser is not mapped to detected browser, or language is not mapped to detected language because they don't map one-to-one. But I have here browser to planned browser and planned browser to detected browser and so on and so forth. All right, I'll go and actions to automap and automap settings. In automap settings, again, have the possibility to compare with these field properties, but I also have a possibility to import a file. Okay, so I will take the automap demo map for processing, and it will give me the file path. Okay, so here we are with the file path, and now our tool knows to use this mapping file in addition to the automap conditions that we have from before. Again, I run automap to all tabs, and now I have 13/14. So I'm still missing some activity, and this is because in requirement I can see there's a yellow sphere here. So all of the others are fully mapped in test. In test case, we have, for an example, level to test level, and in our defects we have language to detected language and browser to detected browser, and so on, because we have created this file and provided it the rules and conditions for this automap. Now this needs still some confirmation because we do some changes here. So whenever we map this, the history goes from yes to no, and the length will change. So it will ask us to confirm this mapping so that we are not losing any data, and there's no surprises in our configuration changes. All right, I can also do confirm all, because there might be a lot of these mappings that need confirmation. So I'm just gonna click on confirm all. Now I have 100% progress on my field mapping, and I'm gonna save this mapping file for data processing. So my mapping file is ready for this pair of global QA template to core banking project. I'm gonna give it a unique name, and yeah, so that's what we do with the mapping tool. So the mapping tool gives us a possibility to see what kind of configuration do we have in the template and what kind of configuration do we have in the project, and then do the mapping of these files between these two project and template. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to start actually converting the project to align with the template. Now I have the mapping file, and I'm gonna open up the data processing tool. So what my data processing tool does, it eats these mapping files. So I just created this mapping file, and I'm going to add it here. Again, of course, it asks me for my credentials. And here we are. So I have my data processing jobs. Of course, I could be able to just list a lot of different data processing jobs here and then run it as bulk. But now I'm just going to do one. So first I'm going to do verify. It now checks that my both project and template are active and they are accessible with the credentials that I gave just now. Okay, the verification is good, so I do run. Remember to back up your databases. Yes, for sure. So what it really does now, it connects and verifies project and template again, and then it starts to actually go into the project and copy values, create new template style fields in your project, and really aligns it with your template configuration. All right, project and template linked successfully, and here we can see that it's finished successfully. Now the next step that we can do, or we want to do, is we want to go to the cross-product customization of our template. So in our template, we can now see that the core banking project that I had just converted, as it said here, project and template were linked successfully. So this is what we get now. So this project is now linked to this template, but it has not been updated or verified yet. So what we really want to do is we want to push the configuration of the template to the project. And if you would go to this situation without running the conversion, it would fail, because it needs certain conditions to be fulfilled before being able to run this cross-project customization. Now, as we have converted it, I can go to verification. Okay, one project passed. There might be some warnings. We have a report here that we can look at, but I'm okay with the warnings because it's a familiar situation for me. So I'll go to apply customization. And apply customization will then push the configuration of that template into that project. And of course, in the end of our standardization initiative, we would have all of our projects listed here, linked to the template, verified and updated. And that's the situation where we want to be ultimately when we are standardizing our HPLM environment. We want to have a template that caters to all kinds of varieties of projects that you have. And then we want them to be linked to the template so that whenever we do any changes, any additions, for example, we can go to our project entities and we can go to a development team list and we want to add a new team, team D, okay? And then we save. Okay, and then we go back to cross-project customization. Now you can see that these changed. Verified is X and it's not updated because we changed the template. Now if we want to push that change, that new team into the project itself or all the projects, again, we do verification and apply customization. And that's the power of ALM templates. Whatever changes you do in your template configuration, you can push that change into all the projects in your environment with just a few clicks of a button. All right, so that's really what we want to do with the harmonization part. So if we go back here, we map existing projects to template, we use the mapping tool, and then we use the Azure Harmonizer data processing tool to transform existing LM databases to align with the new enterprise template. After that, what we want to do is we want to verify and enhance data integrity within some list fields in our projects with the Azure Data Standardizer. Okay, our apply customization went through, and again, they are updated and verified. And now we're in a good situation where ALM templates are used for this project, and that's really the end of the Azure Project Harmonizer tool path or tool flow. So after that, we start our data standardizer application. Okay, so data standardizer, we create a new mapping file. So it automatically gives us a timestamp here, and I'm okay with that. And it asks for my credentials again to be sure. And I'm going to click login and select the project that we just harmonized and linked to the template. So I choose core banking here, and I select it. Okay, now it goes through the project configuration, and it will tell me how well do the current field values in my lookup list style fields, how well do they align with the new template values. So for an example, I have test priority, and I double click on this. I can see on the left hand side I have low, medium, high, very high, and urgent. I have 1 dash low, but in our template we have 1 space dash space low. So it's not really the same thing. In our reports, for example, if we want to compare reports between different projects, this will not go well. Even little spaces will make a difference. Let alone those be, for an example, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here would be just high, medium, low. So what I do is I click on low and low, send medium and medium, high to high, very high, and urgent to urgent. And down here we get a similar kind of a bucket that we have in our harmonizer tool that shows us how are we mapping our values for this priority field for this entity test. And then we go standardize. So we update all these map field to the project. So what this does, it really goes through the project and does a find replace for everything that it finds 1 dash low and changes it to 1 space dash space low. And I click on standardize here, and it processed. So updated records for 5, 23, 45, 19, and 20. So we can verify with these calculations. We can verify that the amounts are correct, and we have a history trail. We have an audit trail for all our activities here. Now it goes back to the same project, and we can see that our data quality is slowly going better. So we still have 468 inconsistent values out of a little bit over 10,000 values. So we want to keep on working with this. For an example, we want to look at test level. So we have basic, medium, and advanced. And in our template, we have high, low, and medium. So advanced would be high, and basic would be low. And now I have this mapping again. And yet again, I standardize, run this, success, updated records 38, 48. And we close again. It runs the analysis and gives us a new data quality score, 96. So it's going up. We have to do the same thing with a lot of the other fields. Really, all the fields that have red or yellow here as the sphere on the left. All the fields that have a green sphere are already okay. Inconsistent data here is 0%. So we're happy with those. So really, data standardizer gives us a possibility to go and see how well do our existing data in the fields of our entities, in our tests, requirements, defects, and so on, how well do they align with our actual list values in that same field. So really, we can scrub the data and verify the integrity in a very detailed level. All right, so that concludes our demo, and I'm going to go back to the presentation here. So what we did is we prepared our HPLM template. We had created a very first draft template, and through our analysis we noticed that we're missing some fields. So whenever we added those fields, we can make sure that none of the data is dropped whenever we go forwards with our standardization initiative. We mapped our existing projects to template with the use of Azure Harmonizer Automap and the mapping file. And then we linked the projects to the new template by using the data processing tool that converts the actual project. And then we run the cross-project customization in HPALM to really push the template configurations to the project. Now, once we did that, we have the template lists available in our project, and that enabled us to run the Azure Data Standardizer. So that's really, in a very short time span, the activities that we want to do whenever standardizing our projects to a enterprise ALM template. A couple of words about the standardization project structure in general. So whenever we go forwards to actually standardizing our existing ALM projects, we want to understand any rules from business, from administration, from some new methodologies that we are using. Perhaps we want to use certain kind of risk assessment style, and we want to have all the risk fields in our requirements to have the same lists or so on. And these are rules that come from our methodologies or business itself. And then we start analyzing and documenting the current situation, which takes up about 40% of the total project initiative effort. One example that we've been using a lot is to run workshops. So we take a bunch of users or responsible users or key power users in our ALM environment, and invite them to workshops to discuss, for example, releases and requirements section at one go, test planning and execution in another workshop, defects management in another workshop, and then we come to a conclusion of what kind of template should we actually configure and create, so that everybody is happy with the contents and nobody is missing out on crucial information. Okay, then we are going to have a look at the company metrics and reporting initiatives. So as we are looking to the future, we have many times over the first time a possibility to run cross-project reports against our QCRLM projects. So of course, this should spark up new reporting initiatives in management level, because management can for once compare projects to actually to list projects and their properties and their progress situation and so forth, to see which projects would need help in what department and so on and so forth. We developed the template, which takes about 20% of the complete effort, and we can have more workshops, for example, to integrations and alignment to other tools around. For example, if we want to have application or system IDs the same in all the tools that have to do with, for example, in development we could use Jira, and in Jira we have our project code or system code app 1 or something, and in ALM we also want to call it app 1, because if we want to do real business intelligence reporting, we want to have these basic identifiers in place. Then we have a steering group. We have to collect a steering group that approves the usage model and the template that we are designing and developing here. And once they've approved it, we go to deploying it. So the deployment of the enterprise template is this data processing and cross-product customization and these conversion activities that we just demoed here. And that takes about 40% of the overall activity effort. Because if you have hundreds of projects, they still need to be gone through, not really project by project as in analysis, because we have some of these tools, but based on our experience, it does take a long time to actually deploy the enterprise template into use. After that, we suggest and strongly encourage people to do just continuous development. And continuous development is something that your company will will benefit in the long run a lot. You can have feedback groups with upgrades, updates, ideas. You can have HP ALM days where you just invite a lot of the users into an auditorium and give some presentations about new features, and they might get excited and start to use some of these new features and share their experiences with other users and so on and so forth. So this really paves the way for a unified culture of using this ALM software suite in your company. Okay, so benefits of standardization. So what kind of benefits are we looking at here? We're looking at company-wide reporting, better control for project admins, dynamic custom feature sets that can be used throughout the company, easier transition to new methodologies like Agile, for an example, single-click template updates, and overall lower maintenance effort and thus a lower total cost of ownerships and a higher benefit from the overall ALM usage. All right, so I know there's a lot of information for 40 minutes. How well did we do with time? Well, 48 minutes. And I'd very much like if you could just ask questions and remember the survey that will pop up when the webinar is over, and contact us for any questions, any proof of concept or additional demos or documentation or presentations if you want to push this initiative forwards in your company at info@assure.net.
Okay, great. Thank you, Thomas. So we're going to have a Q&A right now. We got several questions already, and please keep them coming. The first one is, the question is, when you push the template to the project, does the analysis and cross-project customization, which we call CPC, it include the workflow, right? And where fields that are changed, so there are fields that are changed, they are referenced in the workflow. So what happens with the workflow?
Yes, so the workflow will be pushed from the template to the projects in the template workflow space. So whenever you have linked a project to a template, you have two spaces for the workflow. One is the template workflow, one is a project-specific workflow. So this can sometimes, depending on the situation, create some strange situations. So what we suggest for workflow in general is to really take it as its own separate thread or separate parallel activity within a standardization initiative. And it might sound like a huge task, but it's actually not that big a task, as we have noticed. And so our tools do not go to the workflow script itself to change the field names and so on.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. Just to add to that, all the mappings can be exported to Excel, and that could be a great reference for changing the existing workflow with the fields. So yes. It was BG user 02 is going to turn into BG user template 05. It's easy to know.
Yes. So all of this material that we create in this mapping, all the mapping files and everything, we can export them to Excel and give you a reference information for each and every project. So that's one of the power of the standardization suite, is that you have an audit trail of anything that you do within this flow.
Okay, thank you. Now we have another question about regarding access rights to both the analysis and the harmonizer itself. Is ALM admin rights sufficient? And I think, Thomas, just to add to that, you can explain where these tools are installed.
Yes, so these tools are installed in your workstation. So these are workstation tools that use the API, and sometimes I think mostly they just use the API of the ALM client, and to be an admin for that particular project that you are using is needed. So you need to be an admin for that project, and you need to be able to read the template configuration as well.
Okay.
So
yeah, that's right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so just to add to that, the mapping and analysis, I think, can be done by mostly any user that has access to the projects. However, the actual conversion can only be done
Good point.
by a site admin. You want to keep that under tight control.
That's a very good point, because the mapping part is really where we need the expertise and understanding of the project end users. If we just put a QC admin from the backend from your IT department to try and map all your business projects, they might not know if detected in browser should be mapped to browser or so on and so forth. You need to have someone there who can help you from business side to understand how the mapping should be.
Okay. We have another question. What about memo fields or date fields? These sort of a bit special kind of fields.
Yeah, so there are some mapping rules. I'm assuming that this question is about, can you map those fields, those special fields? So you can map fields between each other by certain rules. You can imagine if you want to map a string field to or a memo field to a lookup list field, for an example. That wouldn't work because the memo field holds such a completely different style of data. So there are some rules that are not allowed in the mapping because of technical limitations.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, the mapping tool itself would limit users from making mistakes. For example, you cannot map a number field into a date field. It will never work. So yeah.
Yeah, or a string field to a number field.
Okay.
If the string field has text.
All right. We have another question. It's a customer who has Enterprise QC Edition, right? They don't have the ALM with the templates.
Yes.
What can you use from those tools for QC Edition?
For the QC edition, I would start definitely with the mapping tool, with the mapping to analysis part. So whenever we have this automap process, automap effort analysis, we can run it against your QC edition projects to really understand all the kind of differences that you have in your environment. So we have some utilities there that don't even require the template to be present. You can just download the complete configuration of your QC projects and start comparing them to understand what kind of varieties you have in your environment. But most of our tools do need the template to be present. Also, data standardizer. Shir, correct me if I'm wrong, but
yes.
But you can run data standardizer against QC Enterprise Edition without any problem.
Yes, exactly. That's absolutely.
Yeah, you don't need templates for that at all. You can just, with data standardizer, you can just verify that for an example, if you want to change your severity levels in your defects, and you want to change your historical data so that you don't break all your reports when you change the values midstream, then data standardizer is a good tool for that, and it doesn't need any template. It will just compare the new list that you've created with the existing data and allow you to find and replace the historical data with the new values.
Okay, great. So we've got a couple of more questions. One of them is, what about HP? Aren't they providing a way to resolve conflicts between these templates and projects?
Well, HP themselves are using the same toolkit in their environment. So this is really the way we know that as long as we know, this is the only toolkit for this purpose in the world. And as HP are using it themselves, that kind of verifies it.
Okay, thank you. And we got some questions about pricing. So for pricing, please contact us in the email on the screen. I can give you an indication. Pricing is normally influenced by the number of projects and actually the size of your HPLM. There is also, of course, a volume discount. So a customer with 10 projects will have a per project price which is higher than a customer with 1,000 projects. Okay, so that's about pricing. Now, I think another one we can take. How long does it take to convert large projects?
That's a good question. The longest that I've seen a project convert is around 25 minutes.
Could you share what do you mean by a large project?
Yes, it's a huge project. This means that that it has hundreds of thousands of entities within one project. With an entity, I mean any defect or test or whatever. And so it's really, the size of the project was so large that it's not, there's other issues there than just this conversion. I would rather kind of skim this project off the top a little bit before I would go forwards with it. But even those huge projects took around 20 minutes. So normally a normal project with about, say, 5,000 test cases and 500 to 700 defects and a couple of hundred requirements and so on will take just a minute, under a minute.
Okay, thank you. So just to emphasize on that, we have some global customers. Their ALM usage is really around the clock. So minimizing downtime is a really big thing for them. And having these tools saves them, hours and hours of downtime, if not more than that. Okay, I think we're good, Thomas. No more questions unless something comes in now. So yeah, thank you, Thomas.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for attending, and please, give us an email and let's talk more. And thank you, Shir.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.